That's the longest. Oh, the mics are on now.
I knew it.
Patrick Fellrath, how do we sound back there?
Very good.
Good, okay.
Osceola County, Osceola
Township.
There's several of them.
There's several Osceola townships.
Osceola, yeah, you had a, keep scrolling.
That's gonna be our Michigan Week speaker for next year?
Shot.
What?
This is good, something to know.
What do you want? What do you do?
It's the parking ordinance
Hours use,
on sidewalks.
Who cares?
All right, here we are.
Torch Lake, okay,
That's probably Antrim County.
all right.
Is there one in Lenawee? Lenawee or?
I don't know. but
There's
that
cities,
refers
counties.
to
The
Torch
cities and
Lake.
charter townships and townships.
I was just saying,
Okay,
Although
okay.
there's two Torch Lakes, so.
All right, let's go. Good evening, the Charter Township of Plymouth Board of Trustees, regular meeting for Tuesday, June 13th, 2023 will come to order. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Stewart.
Here,
Trustee Monahan.
here,
Trustee Kermy.
Here,
Trustee Buckley. Clerk Vorva here. Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Here.
Supervisor Heisey.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, Pledge of Allegiance, how about Chief Nightel? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jerry, remind me, red is on or off?
Red is on.
Okay, before we do approval of the agenda, I know that there is a typo throughout the appointments in the consent agenda. All of those appointments should be June 30th, 2026, not 2027. So, Mr. Clerk, if you all can make a note of that
We will.
in the minutes. And
So noted.
and all that good stuff. So I just want to make that minor change. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk.
I move for the approval of the agenda for Tuesday, June 13th, 2023.
Motion's made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Treasurer Dorchevitz. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, approval of the consent agenda. Questions, comments?
I'd like D2 point A and D.4 to come off.
D2A
One is
and
for
D2.
reappointment and another is the bills.
D2A,
Kendra and Barry.
yeah,
Oh, just D itself.
D2A,
just the first one.
Yes.
D2A.
Yeah.
A,
okay.
okay.
And then D3 is the,
four.
D4 is
Which
the
is
township
bills.
bill.
The bills, okay, D4. Okay. You want those separate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Supervisor.
Yes, Mr. Clerk.
I move for the approval of the consent agenda for Tuesday, June 13th, 2023, with the amendment of removing D2A and D24.
Okay, motion's made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second?
Yes.
Mr. Kermy seconds that. Since
favor?
this, well, we do,
We have to,
We talk about it.
we're gonna move it to the regular agenda.
We're removing it from the consent agenda.
Right,
to the regular agenda.
right.
And so we need a roll call.
So do we need a roll call?
Yes, because we have things here that are, the appointments need to be.
Yeah, okay.
Supervisor Heisey.
No. I mean, a yes would be to advance it as amended.
As amended.
Okay, I vote no.
Okay.
So what is your,
Dorchevitz.
you're a yes or no?
I'm a no.
Ye-
So you don't want to remove it.
I don't want those items removed. I don't want one of them removed.
Okay.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Trustee Buckley.
yes,
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Audrey Monahan.
no,
John Stewart.
No.
1, 2, 3, more, motion carries.
Okay, so we're moving on then. All of that is done. Let's go back now to item D2A. Okay, this is the reappointments of Kendra Barberena and James Berry to the Planning Commission for a term ending June 30th, 2026. Comments, questions?
So we're going to vote on this separately, a yes.
That's
or
what we're
no.
doing right now.
Yeah, right.
All set?
Yep.
Well, why'd you want it removed?
I was
Because
gonna
I
ask
intend to
that.
vote no for those two people.
Okay,
He isn't like my brother-in-law.
okay, everybody, okay.
Okay.
So I have nothing to do with him.
So,
It's just,
let's,
I move the
record of
approval of the reappointment for Kendra Barbera and James Berry to the Planning Commission.
okay, motion's made by Clerk Vorba, is there a second?
Kendra Barberina.
Kendra Barberino, yeah.
Second.
Second by Treasurer Dorchevitz. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Clerk Forby, yes. Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
no.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, item D4 is approval of township bills. Comments, questions, concerns?
One of the questions I had wasn't answered, so will you have somebody tomorrow get back with me? It had to do with a Cummings plumbing bill.
Okay. I remember the email, so what we'll try to do is get somebody to respond to that. Is that a DPW item?
It wasn't clear, that's why I asked.
Okay. All right, we'll take care of that.
So then we need to approve the rest of the bills
Okay.
with the exception of that one.
Correct.
Or we can make it contingent upon the answer
Yes.
tomorrow if it's satisfactory.
That's better.
No, I
Satisfactory to
don't
whom?
think that makes, I think that puts too much power in the hands of one person. So why don't we just make it, why don't we approve the whole thing and we will get you an answer on the Cummings
So
plumbing issue.
what's the item that was removed?
The Cummings bill.
Or sorry.
It's just a small bill for Cummings, and it wasn't clear what we were paying for.
Cummings plumbing, so.
It was just overlooked by whoever had to answer that question.
Okay. Okay, so can we just approve item D4 in its entirety, and then we'll get you an answer on that plumbing issue?
All right,
that
I
fair
will
enough?
agree to that.
Okay, motions, is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, motion's made by Mr. Kermy, is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Monahan. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes,
Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Clerk Forby, yes. Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so next up is public comment, limited to 3 minutes. This is for items that are not on the agenda tonight. I know many of you are here on the HOA issue. That will be coming up shortly, so we can take care of that. Yes, ma'am, come on up. I'm so instinctively pointing this way now, it's gonna take me a while to get used to that. That's okay.
where's the microphone?
It's there. It's working.
You need to have it closer to your face.
Just throw out random insults.
Dang. We're a welcoming community here, come on, man.
You don't even have to do that. That would be good.
Well, my question is this, I have some concerns with the parking area at Amazon. I have been there and there are several signs, as a matter of fact, there's 20 reserved parking signs, which just says the words.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. Where?
Amazon.
Amazon
Oh, the
Fresh.
Amazon.
Fresh.
Oh, fresh.
You mean Amazon, the grocery store, or Amazon, the parking, the warehouse?
The one that's coming.
All right.
The one that's coming up. So I was concerned, like, what does the reserved parking mean? So I went and asked a couple of the 8 stores that were there, and they don't know. So I came down here, and I asked the building department, what is that for? And they said it's for EV parking, electric vehicle parking.
Yeah.
I think 20 spots is extreme. I see we have 2 back here, or total of 4. I know the county board, there's 2 by the emergency room, and there's 4 total cars that could be plugged in at one time. But to have
I don't know if that's accurate.
parking spaces, when you have 8 businesses over there, everybody's walking a great distance.
Yeah.
And no one's parking in reserve, because they don't know what that means, except
Yeah.
for construction. So my suggestion, and I'm
Okay.
just
Yeah.
making a suggestion.
That's okay.
Is, I know that store is not even supposed to open until around May of 2024.
I'm not sure about that, but go ahead, but yeah.
Maybe we could put like bags or something over the signs so that people could still park close to run into the pharmacy or to run into SBS. Those don't take long periods of time, but I just have some concerns, like.
Sure.
Henry Ford coming, and they've got a total of 4.
Yeah.
They're a much bigger entity than
Yeah.
Amazon is for.
Okay, so I don't think that those are all intended for EVs. Despite what you may have been told, I think that's a good guess, but I would think that my assumption is that many of those are going to be for EV charging, but I think some of them are going to be reserved for door-to-door delivery, so that, like DoorDash or somebody who's coming in there to place an order. Again, I don't know all of the mechanics of how the Amazon Fresh is going to work. We have some pretty good ideas of what's going to happen. But I think 20 EV units there would probably be too much. I don't know if it's having any interference at all with the other stores around there.
And the pharmacy.
Okay, well, you know what? I can talk to, I know the landlord, Harvey Weiss is the landlord for this entire facility here, and he's working with Amazon to build that. So we can take a look at that. If maybe the short-term solution would be to put some bags over there. If it's that, but that should be but let's make that a corporate decision between Mr. Weiss, the landlord, and the tenant, the future tenant, which is Amazon Fresh. Okay?
But a point is, one, that's private property,
Correct.
so don't expect a ticket for parking in the restricted spot for now.
Well, I wanted to know if you'd ever get a ticket if you didn't have an EV car. I mean, it doesn't, I don't know, but.
Well, the stations, no, hold on.
I
The
can't believe
EV,
you
the
just said that.
You can't give a ticket for that on private property.
The EV units are not even installed yet, so, and I don't think they're going to install 20. I think it's probably gonna be closer to 6 or 8. But I think the theirs are there for, people who are phoning in or, emailing in requests and then picking up by car. That's, very popular still.
If you take Mr. Kermey's advice, make sure there's no towing signs out.
Well, there isn't. But
Okay.
and I was also directed by somebody else who
Yeah.
said, you can park in the EV spot if you want. And if there's 200 spots there and the rest are over on that, and I'm gonna go
I get
for a minute, I'm happy to park.
Yeah.
So, good.
Okay, we'll definitely look into that. Anybody else?
So I'm Beth Birmingham. I'm a longtime Lake Point resident, and I'm also on the homeowners association board. So I have a couple of questions. I wanted to know the status update for the Courthouse Square property, and if that's still in progress or what's going on, because I've driven past it since I've been back, and it's still the same.
Yep. Courthouse Grill, as of now, they've obtained all of their permits, and they are telling me that the building should be demolished by the end of the month of June.
Okay, thank you. And my next question is, it was brought to my attention that there's going to be some kind of storage space for RVs.
Sorry to interrupt. Are you speaking into the mic?
Yes, I can hear her.
People are saying they can't hear it.
Yeah, it's coming across loud.
Yeah, but what
Okay.
you're talking about is over the air, online. Okay, so there's something wrong, so let's,
Sorry to interrupt you. Go. Okay.
Yeah, it's,
Is she using the bar mic or the?
yeah, the bar mic, because it was working really fine the other day.
Okay.
Okay, so your other question,
Go ahead, Beth.
storage unit,
Okay,
something
yes.
about.
Is it an indoor storage unit or is it going to be outdoors?
The one at Schoolcraft and Haggerty?
Haggerty.
It's gonna be mostly outdoor storage of, vehicles, RVs, boats, things like that. And that's why they're building the big berm, and then there's gonna be, bushes and trees and things planted there as well to obscure the, inside.
I'm going to assume it is owned by a reputable company that is not going to create an eyesore, especially because it's so close to the Lake Point neighborhood.
They have received all of their approvals from the building and planning departments, and site plans have been reviewed. And as far as the reputation of a company, that's not something that we, investigate, but they've met all of our standards and requirements.
Okay, because there is that big eyesore that's right next door.
Yeah.
That's been there since 1970 or so, and that's a big eyesore.
Yes, I call that the Scooby-Doo ghost town, actually. I think that would be a good description.
Okay, and then my last question is there going to be a funeral home at the corner of Five Mile Haggerty, right next to the Greek Orthodox Church?
Yes.
And when is that going to happen?
Construction should start later this year. They've just gotten all of the permits from Wayne County for water and sewer, and they'll probably start later this year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else on non-agenda items? All right. So what we're going to do next is see if we can improve the situation here for sound quality. Mr. Jenks upstairs says it's a little choppy up at the podium. Okay, good. So item F1 is up next. This is a resolution to formally separate Beacon Meadows subdivisions 1 and 2 from Eaton Estates condominiums. I've put together a two-page cover memo on this along with the resolution that is being requested of the board. As I pointed out in my cover memo, this is a matter of first impression for, I think, certainly for me, if not for the entire board. So we've had our attorney, Kevin Bennett, working extensively on this with the attorney for at least one of the parties, if not both, and I know he is here tonight. So why don't we start by bringing the HOA lawyer up first and explain to us what has brought us to this point, and what is it that exactly what you would like us to do, and what if any drawbacks may exist for the township? And I'll ask the same questions of Kevin. So.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you guys for visiting. And everybody, just want to thank everybody first of all for stepping up so quickly to address this matter. Really helped us out in a pinch. We were trying to get this done before the annual meeting of the Property Owners Association for Beacon Meadows and elected board. Cleanly, without having to worry about any states being part of the election. So as I explained in my many emails, well, appreciate it.
We didn't receive them, so please give the background.
Sure, absolutely. So the background of this is you have these two communities, right? You have Beacon Meadows subdivisions, number 1 and 2. Then you have Eaton Estates condominium, which is within lot 57 of subdivision number 2. So you have 2 subdivisions, you have 1 condominium within a lot within subdivision number 2. So it's a mixture of a condo within 2 subdivisions. And all 3 of those are part of the Beacon Meadows Property Owners Association. So that's how they were created under what they call the Residential Unit Development Agreement by Carrollton Arms originally. Super that engineer. Originally, the original RUDA, what I call RUDA, which is the Residential Unit Development Agreement, RUDA, I think the idea was that there would be various types of housing combined. It meant it's townhouses, condominiums, and homes, originally. But what we ended up with, which is what you see on the map, there is the 2 subdivisions and Eaton Estates and condominiums. So that's how it was originally set up, and that's how it's been operating since then. The issues were issues on both sides of the associations as to why this is not really desirable or worth the trouble to have the condominium be part of the Beacon Meadows Property Owners Association. One of the issues that has arisen over the years was the benefit that the condominium received for payment of their assessments to the Property Owners Association. That's really 2 assessments, right? One assessment to the condo, their own association, and the other to the Property Owners Association on top of that. So over the years, there has been raised concerns and objections as to, what are we getting for paying the POA when we maintain the entire condominium property ourselves? The allegation that was unfair, that they should perhaps receive their reimbursement for what they paid. Over the years, I think there was some refunds or rebates given back to kind of equalize things. So it was just kind of, the whole thing was kind of an unnecessary, process to go through everything for the assessments. It was like, why are we doing this? Who does this serve? So that was one problem, is the benefit received by the condominium for what they're paying. that also resulted in claims that, might have resulted in legal claims from one community against the other over that issue. So what we're doing now is trying to resolve this permanently so that there's no longer concern for both communities. There's no longer any disputes or reimbursements or fairness of sessions being paid by one community to the other. So that was one big part of the motivation, at least especially from the Eden State side. And I don't represent them, to clarify, I represent the Property Owners Association. There was another attorney that I was dealing with, Evan Alexander, a different firm, who represented Eden States, right? I did negotiate with him, and he did, just for the record, he did approve the documents that we agreed upon and were voted on by both communities. Everybody in the POA voted on these documents. The other concern I mentioned, that why we're doing this with the background, the election. Right? So the issue is the people in the Property Owners Association, the subdivisions, they wanted to, they wanted to elect their own directors, but for the documents, the way they're set up, there's 37 units of condominium who also have the right to vote in that election for PLA directors. So again, it's like, why are they voting in our election when they really don't have a huge stake in what we actually do on a day-to-day basis as far as maintaining the common areas of the subdivision? What is the benefit to them for that? So why should they elect our directors? So that was a concern for the PLA side. So the concerns on both sides, they both agreed that this was something they both wanted to do. The communities came to an agreement to pursue these amendments earlier this year to resolve these concerns on both sides. Just what I mentioned also, for the record, we do have two members of the board for the Property Owners Association here tonight. There's Ryan Soder, who's here, as well as Bruce Price on the Property Owners Association board. Also, Dixie Hibner, who is a co-owner of the condominium. And she was also on the board until we did these amendments, and I think she's due to resign since if these are approved and recorded into that. So they are here as well. If you have any questions, but as I said, these were presented, these were drafted by me as well as by the attorney for Eden Estates, and boards themselves approved them. Then we had a meeting of the POA on May 4th where these were all voted on, and there were 5 documents that were actually amended. The RUDA itself, which is the First Amendment to the Residential Unit Development Agreement that we're asking you to sign off on. There's 4 other documents that you don't have to really, are not involved in approving: articles of incorporation, bylaws, and then the 2 declarations of restrictions, one for sub 1 and one for sub 2. Those don't really involve your approval process, just the RUDA. So that's kind of the background of it, and just the practicality of the way we live today, as I see it, how they've explained it, is there's just really the place was ultimately developed and built. It doesn't make much sense. And it kind of creates problems rather than solutions for the community. So that's, I guess, how I would kind of outline the general ideas behind this, and why we're asking for the township to approve it is for something that both communities want, and will solve issues going forward for both communities.
So there's, sorry.
So my main concerns are involving the maintenance of the stormwater facilities, the ponds, any underground drainage, any above-ground drainage, anything that involves stormwater or water management, and then also the roads, approaches, et cetera, anything like that, that either one or the other or both would still be responsible for. I think those are probably the main interests of the township.
Right, okay, understandable, and
And then just for clarification, the separation would occur right here, right? Look on the map.
So this is the condos,
Right,
so the separation would be like physically
Yeah.
this line here?
right here,
Nominally running north and south from North Territorial.
where Eden stubs out here.
Is that, you see all see this?
yeah, so we're not, I believe that's correct, what you're pointing to. As far as Eden Estates, yes.
You have the representatives from the
They do.
HOAs.
Sure, they can answer questions as well.
They know.
That's correct, right, guys? That's correct, yes. All right, so that's correct. Just to clarify, we're not changing anything as far as the plat, the real property, that remains what it is. We're only changing the meaning of membership in the POA. We can change that without changing the plat, changing what actual property is in what subdivision,
No tax implication.
We're not changing any of the real property issues, we're changing the membership of the POA.
Oh, that's all, no
So
planning.
roads and ponds don't change?
No change, and on that point, I was very careful when I drafted this document, because I looked at the township's rights, especially with the drainage, and so the township will maintain all rights to enforce against both the condominium and the homeowners in the subdivisions if there's any issues with failure to maintain any common areas or the storm water drainage system. You can still pursue the same remedies you had before as far as assessing, special assessments to everybody. The only difference would be that because of the agreement between the two associations, a POA would then have to reimburse the condo, right? So the condo is still on the hook to whatever is part of this development that you would assess them for, but we would have to back them up because we made this agreement between ourselves and indemnify them for whatever they would have to pay you, whatever the condo would have to pay you.
Okay, back up here. Eaton Condominiums has a retention pond there. When that pond fills up and needs to be repaired, and Eaton Estates doesn't do it, and we have to intervene, what are you saying?
That's not on us because that's within the condominium, I believe. That is not.
Well, that's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah,
You
sure.
just said that there would be some reimbursement between Eaton Estates and the property owners associations over storm water repair operations.
Yes.
Is that what I heard?
Correct. If there was a problem where we failed to maintain, where the POA failed to maintain what the POA is responsible for.
Just the POA,
Correct.
not the
It's not a change, though.
not the condos.
Right now, the condo is responsible for its own pond. The POA is not. So that's not a change. That is how it is.
Currently, the okay, today, before this change, who's responsible for the property owner's pond, which looks like an L there to the right?
That one, I believe, is within the subdivisions. That one is not within the condominium, correct? That's correct. So,
Yeah,
again, that's not changing.
we've had
POA.
issues with that one in the past, questions and concerns, and I know that I've dealt with other folks in the subdivision on that one. I would say that the other one is the condo.
Okay, so Eaton Estates will maintain and pay for any repairs on their retention pond?
Right, which they already have to do.
Okay, and the property owners will pay for the one that is within the subdivision?
Correct, which it already has to do. My point in saying the reimbursement, just to clarify.
That's what got me
Yeah.
confused.
Yeah, the reimbursement would only come into play if, because I didn't want to change the right of the township that it has right now to come in and assess everybody if the POA failed to maintain the POA properties, right? Because before this amendment, the condo was part of the POA as far as the property that could be assessed for failure to maintain the common areas in subdivisions, because the condo people were part of the POA, right? So that's the way it was originally set up under the original RUDA. The township has the right to assess any units within the whole Beacon Meadows development, which until now has been both subdivisions plus the condo. But again, I'm only talking about the property within that the POA is responsible for maintaining, which is the pond that we talked about that you mentioned, the bottom one, and the stormwater in whatever it is that the POA maintains right now. Up until now, Eaton Estates could also be assessed by the township if the POA failed to maintain it, right? Because you could assess everybody that's in the Beacon Meadows development for that failure. So what I'm saying is that doesn't change. After this amendment would be to the RUDA would be recorded, approved by the township, that would not change. You can still assess everybody for the POA's failure to maintain that pond that's within the subdivision that you can assess right now. That includes both subdivisions and the condominium. So you could still assess, everybody you could assess now, you can assess later. The only difference is because of the agreement we've made, we're like, look, it doesn't make sense for us to let you be assessed by the township when we're agreeing to let you out of the association and you don't want to pay any assessments to the POA anyway, right? So it doesn't make sense to have them remain on the hook for the ultimate payment of anything to go to the township for maintaining those ponds that the POA maintains. It would defeat the whole purpose of the agreement to allow that liability to stay on Eaton Estates condominium people. So we would pay them back. That's the reimbursement. If that ever happened, which hopefully it wouldn't because the POA would maintain those areas that it's responsible for. But if it did, everybody pays you, and we pay back Eaton Estates condo association owners if they are assessed by the township.
So you represent the POA, right? And is there any objection to this proposal on the Eaton Estates side of the house, or are we going to hear from that?
No, we have, as I said, Dixie Hibner is here from if she wants to say anything, she could about that. But, as I said, I believe both boards approved moving forward, and then the communities approved it as well.
Wait, you're not on the
Eaton Estates co-owners have approved this separation agreement, as Greg has described, at 36 of the 37 co-owners. The 37th is not currently living there for health reasons. So in essence, 100% of the co-owners who are living in Eaton Estates have approved this.
And the condition of your pond is what?
We maintain it regularly. We work with a company that maintains it for us, and it's in good
So you're
condition.
confident it's in good working condition?
Yes. Yes.
And I will ask the same question of the property owners to come up here and answer the same question. So we don't, when we approve this, we want to make sure there are no outstanding issues. I want to be assured there are no outstanding issues, so the township doesn't get drawn into anything in the future where we have to act as the financier, like we have in the past at some other places. So, sir, tell me what the condition of the Beacon Meadows property owner's pond, the one on the lower right there is.
It's in good working condition. I actually had an engineer back in the fall just do a site review, and she felt like everything was operating as expected.
When was the last time you had work done on it, if ever?
I've only been in the community for 2 years. Bruce has been here longer. I don't know if he may have any knowledge of when there's been any maintenance on it that you know of.
I think about 5 or 6 years ago, you guys did some dredging out there.
It was not dredging,
You're gonna have to come up,
you
you
gotta
gotta
come
come
up,
up
you
here,
gotta come up.
you gotta come up here. I remember I was working with Norm Weist, who backs up to the pond, and there were some easement issues, and I don't know exactly what work was performed, but I thought there was some machinery, heavy machinery that went back there.
Yeah, my name's Bruce Price, and I'm one of the original homeowners. I've lived there since 1988. The pond, my understanding, we've had, as Ryan stated, we've had somebody recently view it. They say it's functioning appropriately. Some of the prior board of the homeowners association has represented that they've worked with you guys in the past. They've claimed that you guys have not had any issue with it. Kurt, what you're referencing to is about 4 or 5 years ago. There are 3 inlet pipes that inlet into that pond. Some of them, there's one right in the middle on the right. There's one at the bottom left, and they're right about, well, yes. And there's one at the top, and that's where water flows into the pond. Some of those pipes, we tried upgrading one of the pipes a few years back, 4 or 5 years ago.
You were successful, or you just tried?
We did put a pipe in. Some of the homeowners didn't like it.
But it works. Does it work?
It worked.
Oh, worked. I don't like to hear that. Is it working now? It sounds like no.
We don't know. It's underwater. We can't see it.
We've had the driest period in almost modern history, and it's underwater?
Those are the pipes that feed water into it. The water exits out of the detention pond in the lower left. You can see that, right, that little tributary right there. And the water flow, when it reaches a certain level, it flows out of there, behind some homes, goes underneath North Territorial, and it exits and it enters some type of pond across the street. I believe it makes its way to there, or what is it, the Johnson Creek, whatever it is. I'm not an engineer. I do not know. But yes, we have been told water's flowing into the detention basin. When it reaches a certain level, it finds its way out and continues downstream. Now, would we like that pond? Some of us would like it beautified. Other people have mentioned that they like to see other features to it. But that's something as homeowners we
Yeah.
would like to discuss amongst ourselves and without the influence of Eaton Estates being part of our ownership, dictating what we want to do with that.
I mean, we're okay, and I don't want to rehash that stuff, so.
So you're confident it's functioning, we don't have any flooding of houses?
We do not have any
Okay.
flooding now.
Any other questions from the board? Mr. Bennett, do you have anything to add at all? If not, no big deal.
The one thing I would add is that under Article 21 of the zoning ordinance, it provides that if there's any amendments to the RUD agreement, they have to be done in the manner that the RUD agreement was originally established. One of the contract requirements in the RUD agreement is provisions for the township to effect construction, installation, repair, and maintenance, and keep of public utilities, storm and sanitary sewers, et cetera. So as part of this process, we requested that the homeowners association enter into the newest version of the stormwater agreement, which is more comprehensive and more protective for the township. It gives the township the power to make any repairs, but not the duty to make any repairs if the homeowners association fails to do it. If the township does make repairs, the cost of the repairs are assessed plus 20% administrative fee to the properties in the homeowners association.
So we have that provision in there, and it's the way we like it, where we don't have to front the money unless it's,
Right, unless the township chooses to make the repairs, then the township is not going to have it in the assessment process.
Okay, board members, all set? Any other questions, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr.
I move
Clerk.
to approve Resolution 2023-06-1344, approving the necessary amendments to effect the formal separation between the Beacon Meadows Subdivision 1 and 2 from Eaton Estates condominium, subject to final approval by the township attorney.
Motion's made by Clerk
Second.
Vorba, seconded by Trustee
Kermey.
Stewart.
No.
Oh, he's looking at me, so.
Who did? To tell me-
Stewart,
Okay.
take the roll, please.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Kermey.
yes.
Trustee Buckley. Yes. Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yeah.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisler.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody, for working on this. It's been
Thank you,
very
everybody.
interesting.
Appreciate it.
All righty, moving on to item 2. This is the 2022 audit presentation. We have Ollie Barnes here from Yo and Yo, our auditing firm, and Carol Roshan is also here tonight. She is our acting finance director, because we're still looking for a finance director. If you know of anybody, please let us know. Okay, what we're going to do then is, Ms. Barnes, you're going to walk us through this. Bob's got everything on his laptop, so I think we're ready to go. Just speak right into the gooseneck seems to be working better tonight, so
Perfect. Did you
right
have
into that.
anything you wanted to say? No, okay. Carol's like, please don't call on me. All right, well, thank you for having me here this evening. As the supervisor said, we are going to go through the audit results. This is in summary version. Detailed audited statements have been provided to the township board and are available on the state of Michigan's website as well. Do you have a clicker?
Bob has the clicker.
Yeah, just,
Oh, you're, okay. If you want to go to the next slide, perfect.
yeah, that's the technique.
I'll just point. Got it. All right, so the purpose of having an audit performed is so that we can take a look at your financial information and give you an opinion on the information you're presenting to the public. So the township received an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we can give you that your financial statements have been presented fairly in accordance with the rules that you're required to follow, taking into consideration materiality. It is not our responsibility as auditors to prepare your financial statements or come up with the numbers and information that go into them. Our responsibility is only to give you that opinion. Next slide. So we're going to start off talking about general fund, then we will move to the utility fund, and kind of wrap up with some internal control matters. So to start, we can see general fund revenues. This is your trend history for the past 5 years. Total general fund revenue came in at about 19.5 million for the current year. That was down slightly from the previous year, which was about 19.9 million. I give you this in the detailed form so you can kind of see the major areas where revenue is coming in. Obviously, property taxes is the most significant, with intergovernmental dollars being the second most significant area for you. So really pretty consistent year over year in most of these categories. Property taxes, we generally expect to be increasing moderately over time, given inflation, which increases our property tax values.
On that note, that change is 43% in property taxes between 2018 and 2022. That's almost 9% a year. And inflation typically ran between 1 and 3% during that period of time. So it far exceeded inflation.
I would have to go back and see if you added anything to the mills that you were levying.
Well, we did, but I just took that first number minus the second number with the 2018 number as the base. It's a 43% increase.
Plus you have increase of
So we had
additions.
we had a lot of uncappings and we had some development.
Right.
And we had growth.
We've had $533 million of new investment in the township since 2016, so.
It's all good news.
Yep.
All right, next slide. General fund expenditures then for the current year came in at 18.6 million versus about 18.1 million in the previous year. Public safety makes up the most significant portion of your general fund expenditures, coming in at roughly 12.4 million for the fiscal year. Again, relatively consistent among categories, current year versus prior year. In the operating transfers section, that did increase more this year, related to a $269,000 transfer to the ARPA fund to go towards covering joint cost of those projects that had been approved. Next slide, we'll talk about fund balance. We actually have a couple slides on fund balance. We'll consider all of the makeup of fund balance on the next slide. But this one shows you your fund balance in relation to your annual revenue and expenditures in the general fund. So total fund balance comes in at about 8.27 million. Of that, as I mentioned, there are different categories. But when we're looking at fund balance in comparison to expenditures or revenues, we also like to take a look at the unassigned portion. So that's going to be the bottom line there, kind of in orange. That is about 5.3 million. And that unassigned fund balance represents roughly 28% of your annual expenditures. So if that's a metric you're interested in tracking, that's where that sits at the end of the
And
fiscal year.
what, 28%, how does that compare to what is generally considered to be a best practice?
That's a very good question. The best practice question is kind of all over the place. We would say 3 to 6 months of operating expenses is a good window to be in. Some places end up having more, some end up falling below that, but I think you're within the range. It also depends on communities and what your future projects look like, or how much you have dedicated to buying down your net pension and your net OPEB liabilities. So if you've been putting money into those plans, you're likely to have a lower fund balance percentage than other communities who either do not have those liabilities or are not putting additional funding into those plans.
So would you characterize it as healthy? Is that a fair?
Yeah, I would, yes. And just to point out for this fiscal year, then your total fund balance increased about 900,000 is what you added back. Next slide.
That does not include ARPA money, though.
That does not include ARPA. ARPA is recorded in a completely separate fund. Here are all of the components that make up your fund balance. So starting at the bottom is the unassigned piece, the 5.3 million we already touched on. There's a small amount, about 129,000, that is committed for OPEB payments. The section in orange is restricted. About 1.9 million of that relates to the construction code restriction. So when we have revenues in excess of expenditures, then that adds to the restriction. If it goes the opposite way, we reduce the restriction.
So how much was restricted from the building permits in 2022? How much excess did you have, or we have?
I'm gonna say about 1.8 million,
1.8 million excess?
not excess,
Well,
but
that's
in the
what I'm talking
building
about, the
department
excess.
fund.
If you give me just a second, this year, actually, it went down by about $76,000.
So we did not cover the costs in the building department? I think we did.
Yeah, we did. We
So
just
what I wanted to
reimbursed
know is,
a lot. We reimbursed people.
right,
who
so I
would-
wanted to know how much exceeded,
Yeah, I don't know what that
all
number
right,
would be.
because you mentioned that that there was something in the building fund. That's
Yeah.
that's what triggered the question.
Okay.
Okay,
So apparently we're not communicating. All right, let's just go on. We'll get
okay,
it later. Carol will answer it by email tomorrow, I hope.
okay. Lastly, in the restricted portion are 541,000 related to the PEG fees. And then you do have a small portion, 377,000 or so, that is considered non-spendable. Okay, changing gears. we'll touch-
So Ally, now, a few months ago, this board decided to encumber certain funds in the fund balance for police, fire, elections, recreation, and something else. So next year, will that effort be reflected in this chart?
Correct.
It will.
Unless the amount you, as you call encumbered, if you actually spend the dollars
Right.
towards those purposes, then no.
Correct, okay, I get that. Okay, so theoretically, that, if we weren't not to do anything, then that committed yellow line would get bigger. Is that,
Correct.
So
Okay.
encumbered means restricted, the same thing?
no, it doesn't. It's, restricted funds would be like the PEG fees, where you're limited by law to only spend it in a certain designated area. Encumbered funds are funds that we as a board have decided to earmark for future use in the designated categories.
So the 1% property tax collection fee is in the orange because it can only go to the treasurer and the assessor's department? Just like the building fees can only go to fund the building department? Is that what's in the orange?
The 1% administrative fee is not handled that way because it is presumed that that fee is covering the cost of running that department and handling the administration of those bills.
Yeah, and that's provided not only by statute, but also by the Supreme Court's Bolt decision, which we have to adhere to.
All right, so that is not in there. Okay, good.
Okay,
All right, water and sewer fund activity is shown here for you. We'll start out with the bar portion, which depicts operating revenue and expenses. 14 million came in operating revenue versus 11.4 million in operating expenses for the year. This has been the trend for the past several years and is a trend we would expect to see as you need to essentially be bringing in more operating revenue than your expenses so that you can have working capital on hand and be able to fund future improvements or major repairs and maintenance that may happen in the system. The lines there are showing you your unrestricted net position, and of this, we back out the net investment in Watua, because that kind of skews the information and isn't overly useful for you. So unrestricted net position was about 18.9 million at the end of 2021, an increase to 20.9 million at the end of 2022. I like to look at working capital within these funds, because that gives me a better idea of what's maybe closer to available in cash, or will be available in cash over the upcoming year. And that was 16 million in the previous year and has increased to about 17.9 million. So with those balances, that gives you a pretty significant amount of working capital to be able to handle major repairs and maintenance, and to be working towards future project initiatives.
All right, so Watua, Bob, I think Watua has been paid off as of December of 2022.
Right.
So we are still assessing the Watua charge on our water bills.
Of course.
So will this be adjusted next year? Because we're going to reduce, let's talk about it.
Up to the board.
The bond has been paid, so we are over recovering now. Do we need to take a look at that? We've paid off the bonds, but
We still have Watua costs, though.
but we don't have Watua
We
bonds.
don't have the bond, the 1.4 million.
That dropped off
We have
a couple
to,
years ago.
I mean, we're gonna have to make that decision in July when we set rates.
Okay, so if we paid off the bonds, what generally do you do?
Because
Make a
we
reduction?
also have a 7.3% increase coming from GLWA
Right.
for water costs.
I know, but then what you would do, you wouldn't have the line item of $15.70 for Watua, you would put it into the rate. That's what I'm talking about.
No,
You
I
would
know how the math
reallocate
works.
it. So the bonds have nothing to do with the 7%. So I'm trying to understand here where, if we don't make
Oh,
any change.
It's our overall charges for water and sewer.
Right, because you have 60% fixed. So we'll have to make that, I'm trying to understand what, that line will grow if we do nothing. Then, other than change the rate, we will increase our working capital substantially.
Well, the line will grow if we do nothing, offset by the increases in charges from GLWA.
And other.
And
No,
capital.
I'm talking about,
Capital
no,
improvement.
only with debt, in relation to debt. I'm not talking in relation to the variable cost
Right.
of Great Lakes water.
But, I mean, this line is representing the working capital available, and that line will grow if we, as long as we continue to take in more than we spend, that line will grow.
Or if there's no significant capital improvement projects in the next few
Right.
years.
We
Right.
don't have
If you had a significant improvement project, that line would
Yeah,
decrease.
right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's premature for us to start talking about water and sewer rates at this point. It's
No, I'm just talking
not
about the
July.
debt.
Yeah. Okay.
Bob brought up the rate. I brought up the debt. Okay.
Okay,
I understand.
got it.
Okay, next slide. So changing gears, we're going to talk about the legacy costs that are out there. We'll start with pension and then move on to OPEB. So this slide is your pension liability. You can see over the past 5 years, the change in the fiduciary net position depicted in blue versus the total pension liability. The net position increased this year. It went from 27.3 million up to 31 million. However, the total pension liability also grew, just not as quickly. That went from 38.5 million to about 41 million. So overall, the net pension liability did go down slightly for you. It was about 11.2 million versus about 10 million at the end of the year. These numbers, for your reference, based on how the measurement works, really go back to 12/31/21. So they're reported in your 22 financial statements, but They really are valuations as of 2021 based on the accounting rules. So this does not factor in any market changes that happened in December of 2022. So you would end up seeing those next year. And we'd have to kind of see what happens with the actuarial and how they do the smoothing as far as what ends up getting recorded.
Okay, so the green, tell me what the green, where is the defined benefit pension liability reflected? Which bar?
The net liability, so if we take all the assets we have less our liability, is the line that's running across there.
Say it one more time.
The black line.
Black line.
Black line, the line, it's going down.
This is the net liability, so the orange is the total liability and the green is how much money we have. So this is the total liability. It grows from year to year, but so do our assets, right? So this is the net, but what she's saying is the 2022 is measured as of December 31st, 2021.
Yeah.
So this does not reflect the market conditions from last year.
Last year.
So next year it'll look worse, but then the year after that it'll look better if the performance of the market continues through 2023 the way it has in the first 6 months. So we'll see this dip or this growth in that liability, and then maybe a dip again in the year.
So that approximately $100,000 that was reserved a few years ago, which one did we put this, we were gonna decide?
OPEB.
That's
We
OPEB.
put it in OPEB, all right, not in pension.
Okay, if you want to,
So every year we put 250,000 into OPEB, and then we put that additional 140,000 or whatever it was, right around there, the Jack Dempsey 140,000, as we like to call it.
And that was done this year, right?
Yeah, that was done this year.
Okay.
We're not contributing, well, we are contributing each pay period to the defined benefit.
Yeah.
And it may go away completely by 2027 if things continue the way they are. That was the original plan.
Well,
You have any comment on that?
I don't think
In other
so.
words, we will have paid up,
No.
it'll come to 100%, right? That's what was,
2030.
2027 was the original plan, way back in 2018. That was the projection, that we would be done contributing to pension liability.
I think that, I don't recall that specifically. I'm not really sure. You've said that before. But it would, I think what you're referring to is that would fund the arrearage, and then the run rate on an ongoing basis would continue to be.
Now, I'd have to look back in Mark Clinton's presentations, because that's where it came from. All right.
Okay. Next.
okay, next slide. So this slide is the OPEB liability then. So similar information, what's in kind of the blue are your assets, what's in the peach is the liability. So the liability is at about 10 million. The assets are just under 3 million. So the actual liability, the net liability, is about 7 million. And that did increase slightly this year. It was about 6.7 million in the previous year. However, this plan is as of 12/31/2022. So the assets did feel the effects of the end of 2022's market activity.
So what caused the big step between 2020 and 2021?
Another way to express this is that OPEB is about 30% funded, correct? That's
Yes.
another way to say it.
Yep, you're roughly 30% funded. Yeah, so the decrease in the line, which is the net OPEB liability, that is the result of changes in assumptions between 2020 and 2021. And those could be found
In contract assumptions or?
in actuarial assumptions.
Actuarial assumptions.
So it went from 0% funded in 2018 to about 30% now, so that's going in the right direction.
You are absolutely going in the right direction.
And it'll get maybe better with that money that was put in place this spring.
Yeah,
The extra infusion of cash.
But
Hopefully, yeah.
along with the market, but the market conditions, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, next page. Moving on to internal controls and compliance. This year, we did issue one finding that we consider to be a material weakness. This was related to one audit adjustment. This is not something that I believe to be a systemic issue. This is more of a one-time, we had something relatively new and we didn't quite handle it right situation. So what happened is when the ARPA funding came in during 2022, it was all recorded to the federal grant revenue line. And 852,000 of that really had not been spent as of the end of the fiscal year and should have been included in unearned revenue. So we took it out of revenue, back on your balance sheet as a liability under unearned revenue. Findings related to ARPA have not been unusual this year. I have had more clients have findings ARPA related than clients that have not had findings. So this is a little bit challenging for people to record because how you're getting the money is different than how people are used to getting the money and causes issues in getting that recorded.
I would like to add that in the newest federal budget that was recently agreed to, ARPA funds that are unspent are in fact being clawed back and taken back by the federal government. And we received about $2.83 million in ARPA money, and I'm just happy to announce that all of that money has either been spent or has been obligated contractually to either brick and mortar projects or vehicles or ambulance, senior vans, things of that nature. And not every community and county in Michigan can say that. So we didn't sit on our hands and stare at the wall and figure out what to do. We took action, and I think that was very, very prudent of us.
Kudos to you.
Thank you.
Kudos to us. Are you going to talk about the management comment? All right, thank you.
So no significant deficiencies. We did have a management comment this year related to the special assessment fund. That fund has deficit net position of roughly $190,000. We would recommend taking a look at that fund and doing a projection at least 3 to 5 years out to see how payments and anticipated revenue and outlays are going to match up and how they're going to affect the change in net position to determine when and if this fund gets out of a deficit net position.
What fund is it? Is it SAD for sidewalks or road, or is it trash?
No, it's SAD, sidewalks, and SAD, and roads, the SAD.
Like General Drive?
So help me, how did we get
It's
it?
paid off.
We typically take money in and then we pay the bill and then we collect on the tax roll or by invoices. So help me out, what was the mechanism that, or is this an accounting entry?
Well, no, I'm gonna go back. You record this as a business type fund. So this is either the result of spending more than what you anticipated was going to come in, or it's a timing difference of when you expect to be earning investment income on the $2 million that's sitting in cash to cover the interest
It's the latter,
that you're paying out.
right.
Okay, so what was it? It was the road, SAD?
We don't have any SADs or sidewalks that are not made whole in terms of the assessment equaling the cost. So the issue is that they have the option to pay it off over time. So we front the money and they pay it off over time with interest on road assessments, but without interest on sidewalk assessments, right? So it's a timing thing of collecting the money because we put it out there and we had a number of SADs over the past decade and they've slowed down. What was the last one we had was General
Litchfield
Drive.
and General
Litchfield.
Drive.
Right, yeah.
I think people are still paying on General Drive. And
Yeah, you're
Litchfield.
right, they are.
Litchfield was like 25,000 per house.
Yeah, I sent out to the board a list of them not long ago, a month or so. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I think that's what the issue is, but I think we need to do some analysis on that just to double check it.
Carol, can you weigh in on this? What do you know about it?
Well, we have to pay the contractors, so that.
Yeah, I know all that, but I mean, what do we need to do mechanically?
Collect the money.
Well, Bob would be the one to be able to tell you who still has outstanding loans on their SADs, so.
But he'll be waiting for direction from you to say that we need to make an adjustment in the accounting.
No.
We need to make an accounting adjustment because he can't control when they're going to pay. It's once a year they get the invoice on their,
Because it's a timing issue. So
on their check.
This is what
I mean,
people
on their
still
tax
owe
roll.
us, right?
This is what people
Basically.
still owe us. I sent something out to the board a few months ago. I'll send it again tomorrow. It shows what assessments or what special assessment districts we still have and what the outstanding liability is on each of them. And it was a one-pager.
Right.
And that's what it is because we put out the money for so many and, we're getting it back, but it's just going to get
Take
back
time.
over time.
All right, but
So I think the question that Ally pointed out was that we should project out what the income stream will look like for each of these assessment districts over the next X period of time until they're paid off. That's not that hard.
or at least the next year.
Well, it's per
Just the next year.
taxing period.
Yeah, per
Right,
year,
just a
right.
year at a time.
Yeah.
A year at a time, but, so
What
then
you don't-
you can
what-
make an accounting entry then
Yeah,
to
what you
sort it
don't
out.
know is whether,
They
there
will.
are no new assessment, SADs, road SADs in flight. There's sidewalks that are in flight every year. What we don't know is what proportion of the population is gonna pay them off and how many are gonna just have them roll over to the tax bills. That's an unknown.
Also, the other unknown is, when people change ownership, the
Yeah.
title company usually requires it to be paid off, so that accelerates it.
It does, that's not a substantial amount of turnover, but but that is also a factor.
Ally, anything else?
Not on this slide. The last slide, just to point out for you, there is a letter to the board, kind of in the back of your report. It would have been a smaller PDF in the electronic packet, but this does go through information that were required by the audit standards to communicate to you. A couple things in here. We did adopt GASB 87 this year, although it did not have significant impact to the township. In fact, the amount was small enough that management agreed to pass on recording that adjustment. There is obviously estimation that goes into the financial statements. The two most significant are going to be the net pension liability and OPEB liability, along with capital asset depreciation. And then coming up for this next fiscal year, you will be required to implement GASB 96, which is related to subscription agreements related to technology. So that'll be on the finance
Okay,
department.
explain that. GASB 96.
GASB
subscription.
96. So they're called SPIDAs, that's the acronym for them. It's looking at technology where you have the right to use something and you're agreeing, the vendor is agreeing to let you use that over more than a 12-month period. So kind of like the leases, they're saying if you've entered into these long-term agreements, you need to put them on your balance sheet and then amortize them down over time as you make your normal payments.
So an example of that is the phone system, which is, as a service, software as a service, and there's a contract on that over a period of time. And that would be an example of one that would apply to this rule, right?
That very well could be one, yes,
GIS,
without looking
is
at the
our GIS
contract.
system that way too? Or is that a yearly thing?
No, I think we technically own that. That was put together for us, and it's a
So we
it's a
own it.
database that we own. We don't, Spalding maintains it, but we own it. Computers, phones, those are all leased.
Leases, right to use would be software that,
Yeah.
if you have more than a 12-month agreement on it.
Okay.
So like, if you had like a 36-month agreement on Microsoft Office, for example, that would be one that would apply.
Yes.
Okay, anything else from you? Any other questions for Ms. Barnes from the board?
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk? Yeah, Mr. Stewart. You want
Make
to
the
do it?
motion.
Go
Well,
ahead.
No, this was the first, I just wanted to say, and I'll be glad to offer the motion. But, Mr. Supervisor, you appear to be very satisfied with the good communication between Ally and Carol Rochon. This is the first time this team has worked together. I just want to express my thanks.
It's, well, you know, a lot of it has to do also with Ginger Moriarty, our outgoing finance director. I mean, she is very thorough and very detail-oriented and worked very well with Carol. And I'm glad that we created that finance director position when we did, and I'm even more happy that we have a deputy, so that we have that continuity. And I know that Carol, in whatever position she's in, will continue that theme. You know, as you know, before we came along, audits were not done until sometimes the end of the year. And we got in trouble with the state of Michigan, and there were all sorts of shenanigans that went on with that. You know, since 2016 or 2017, audits in this town have been done on or before Memorial Day, or at least by June 1st. And this is no difference. And we've had, two finance directors since 2016. Carol is in an acting role right now. So that continuity has been going on now for 6 and 7 years. And so we get our audits done on time. They're timely, they're well put together. They keep us out of trouble with the state of Michigan, and it shows that we are far more fiscally responsible than we have been in the past. And Ally, of course, you're our new auditor, so this is your first second audit
year.
already. It just it just goes
Time
so
flies.
fast. I know. Well, we didn't see you guys around as much, during COVID, I think. So now we see more of you. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 meaning absolute gold standard. I mean, where would you put us right now as far as audit? This audit.
That's a very broad question.
Yeah.
Would you say?
For a community of our size and all that.
As it relates to being prepared, ease of audit, is that where you're going?
Just as far as the cleanliness of the audit, the process, the way it was put together and all of that.
Yes, so I would rate you pretty far at the top. You were incredibly fortunate that the prior finance director didn't just wash your hands and walk away. She had things very well prepared. What wasn't prepared prior to her leaving, Carol took on and made sure she got prepared. Carol was fabulous at getting our questions answered, very timely, providing us the relevant information. And that really, this honestly is probably the best audit I've had all year.
Okay.
It went incredibly smooth.
So thank you, Carol. I know it's been tough, being thrust into this situation, but you've definitely done a great job. So
Don't forget my inspirational leadership as well.
Yes. Yep. Bob's right there cheering everyone on.
Yay, Bob.
And I approved her time card.
Okay. Anything else? Yes.
Motion.
Mr. Stewart, you want to do the motion then?
I move that the Plymouth Township Board of Trustees hereby adopt resolution number 2023-06-13-45, approving the audit of fiscal year 2022's financial statements, reports, and letters of required communication, and follow-up recommendations to be filed with the state of Michigan by Yo and Yo, and to acknowledge the receipt and file of the previously stated.
Motion's made by trustee Stewart. Is there a second? Second by trustee Monahan. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Supervisor Heising.
Yes.
Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much. Board comment, oh, well, no public comment. We're going back to public comment, 3 minutes. Going once, going twice, thank you. Board comments, we're gonna go around, start with trustee Buckley. We still have a closed session tonight, so this is not the end of our night here. Just wanna let everybody know. Yeah.
Yeah, my only comments would be that we're moving forward with establishing appointments for the Veterans Commission. We've had as soon as it came out in the Plymouth Township today, people reached out to me almost immediately and looking through the applications. They're not as robust as we thought they were, so if you do know, we're kind of in that recruitment stage. So if you know of a veteran that would be interested in serving on this new commission, that would be absolutely wonderful. Send them my way.
How many applications do you have to date?
6. Yeah, and one was from Canton. So that one.
So that doesn't
was,
count.
Yeah,
So you had 5.
So that was eliminated. Yeah. And then several that showed interest, but, you know, they didn't put the application in just yet. So, as far as anything else goes, that's about it.
Okay. Trustee Monahan,
I don't have anything to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Clerk Vorba,
We're good.
Treasurer Darshevitz.
Taxes are ready to go to the printer about 2 weeks ahead of schedule, so
Yeah, thanks, Bob.
the target is to have them hit the mailboxes on Friday before 4th of July weekend, because we are open on the 3rd on Monday.
We are, yes,
And that's
technically.
the first day, so.
Yeah.
How many do you anticipate sending out?
There's a total, right now, there's 12,000 parcels, including personal and real. Of those, roughly 9,000 are real estate, or real property, I mean. And the rest are personal, so that's how many we're sending out. I think it's gonna be about 11,500, because there are some that are, you know, 0, but it's right in that neighborhood.
Okay. All right, John Stewart.
Thank you. This Monday is June 19th, to be celebrated. Also on June 19th at 7 o'clock in the morning, I've been invited, and I invited my wife to join me at the breakfast at the Birmingham Townsend Hotel with Secretary of Energy, former Governor Jennifer Granholm, who was a constituent of mine. And Chief Nightel and your father, I'm so glad to see you guys both attending our meetings, and I mean that sincerely. I'll be sitting with a colleague, and this is a left-handed compliment for you, with Chief Oakland County Sheriff, someone I served with simultaneously in the State House and State Senate, Mike Bouchard. We will be meeting for breakfast at 7 a.m. this Monday morning in the Birmingham Townsend Hotel. Now, I take my job seriously. I think I would be representing Plymouth Township, no matter what questions we were asked or what was discussed at that meeting, this Monday morning with Secretary of Energy, Jennifer Granholm. Thank you.
So you can ask her about line 5, I hope. You said you're representing us.
Well, I support line 5.
Right.
And Governor Blanchard has said it's the safest thing to build.
Right, so let's encourage her to send the money.
Okay.
I don't want to be controversial
Okay.
or too,
Those decisions are over our
but my
our
position
head,
is well known
so.
publicly. And I don't know why people haven't picked up on former Canadian ambassador and the credible opinion of former Governor James Blanchard, saying it would be the safest thing to build. But no, communication and getting along with people from the other side of the aisle, and an Oakland County law enforcement colleague of yours, Mike Bouchard, is who we'll be sitting with.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Mr. Kermy.
I'll have questions about the horse track, but maybe the schedule. Maybe you're going to talk about the next meeting and horse track timing.
Sure. So the next meeting is June 27th. We have a bunch of amendments that we have to do to the MITC Brownfield Authority, and that'll be self-explanatory. Hopefully, we'll have the 2 lateral hire agreements on the agenda for police and fire. That is going to be the subject of our closed session. Just let that cat out of the bag, eh? July 11th, and again, June 27th is still up in the air as far as Northville Downs goes. Right now, the planned unit development contract and the community benefit agreement are both being negotiated by consultants and attorneys for both sides, and myself, and I'm involved in that as well. So July 11th might be the day for Northville Downs. We also have to do a resolution for the courthouse grill project, which I'll explain later. It's a money pass-through type of thing that we are going to do. I know, Chuck, you've had questions also on the SPARS rezoning. I think we're a long way from any decisions on that.
They're not coming back. It's to
We have
be
not,
determined.
we have not seen any new drawings or anything from them. We've
Not
met
coming
with
back to the
them.
board soon then.
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's a work in progress, and I think they got enough feedback from the planning commission and then from our meeting that we had with them. Gave them some additional feedback on that. So I can't guarantee when Northville Downs will come before us. It might be June 27th. It might be July 11th. Again,
You
it's.
alluded in an interview that maybe that it might be a special meeting.
I don't know, I
At
mean,
least
that's.
the way it was written.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that come up in a phone interview. I mean, I wouldn't rule that out, but I don't see that happening at this point. I would never say never, but the purpose of a special meeting would not be to do anything sneaky or nefarious. It would just be to expedite things, or if the matter finally became ripe for action. And if we wanted to dedicate a whole night to that, then a special meeting might be in order. But as of now, that's just not in the cards.
Okay, so if you have to handicap June 27th, where would you put, no pun intended.
Yeah, I know.
Handicap, what percent do you think it'll?
What are the odds? What are the odds
What
for
are the
June?
odds?
What are the odds
Less
for
than
June
50?
27th? I would say 40%.
So we're going to have the opportunity to see the PUD agreement prior to that, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the key, as we talked about with the planning commission.
Kevin's been working on that as well, and Kevin's been working on it.
And then we also need to schedule in water rates.
Yeah, we can do that as well, Bob, and we'll, why don't we talk offline about when a good time for us to do that.
Okay, I got to still do that.
You want to do it before the end of the summer?
We wanted, well, the rates from
July.
GLWA go up August 1st.
Yeah, so you need to do it in July.
So we want to do it in July, ideally.
Okay. Is that all, Bob? Chuck?
Yes.
Okay. I don't really have anything else. I've talked about future agenda items. We are continuing to work on the fire station study with the chief. Chief went to St. Louis for a meeting with a national meeting on fire stations. There's always a seminar on something out there. Joint recreation plan is underway. We sent out some background to you all on that back on Sunday. I've gotten some feedback, so let's try to wrap that up if you have any more
That Survey
items.
Monkey will be on the homepage for the recreation
Yeah,
plan?
it'll be, we're not exactly sure how it's gonna get out yet. We can do e-news, we can put it on the website as well. But that will not be a scientific poll, I wanna make that very clear, so it'll be just information gathering. We also have an email address now, recreation@plymouth.twp.org, where people can also provide their ideas and input as well on recreation matters. I'm just going through my list here, and I think we are.
That
pretty
survey
good.
that was done by University of Michigan Urban Planning,
Yeah,
where is that on the website, the results?
we can get that up there. I mean, that was really a student project,
Right,
and we
student
were kind of,
project.
we were
I'd like
sort
to
of
see the
the,
results.
we were sort of the guinea pigs on that one. But I have it in hard copy format. I'd have to talk to Laura Haw about whether we can get that. I'm sure we can get it in a PDF of some sort. Okay, then, It is currently 8:23, and I'm going to move for a closed session in accordance with the Michigan Open Meetings Act, MCL 15.268 at SEC for the following purpose: to discuss the negotiation of a collective bargaining agreement pursuant to Section 8C of the Open Meetings Act. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Stewart. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Supervisor Heisey?
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Treasurer Dorchevitz?
Yes.
Trustee Buckley?
Yes.
Trustee Kermy?
Yes.
Trustee Monahan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Motion carries. We are in closed
Okay,
session.
so we're not adjourning yet. We will adjourn when we come back, but I assume that the videotape will be turned off at this
Yes.
point by the people.